Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles, the #1 rated House of the Dragon podcast in the world. Presented by Bolin Media. I'm your host, Ross Bolin, joined as always by Barrett Dudley. And Barrett, we have got ourselves a winner.
But just to start it off, I'm glad that you were able to get a hold of the ratings and reviews from the Chinese podcast charts to make sure that we were the #1 rated and reviewed
you
podcast
misunderstand
in
me.
the world.
We are the #1 rated
#1. That's what I'm saying.
Game of Thrones podcast in the world.
Yes. So you had to go. Are we just doing the NFL, NBA, MLB, the American sports thing? Where if we're #1 here, we're #1 everywhere. We are the world champions, even though we only won the American sports league.
Yeah, if you're asking if I'm interested in the Chinese podcast charts, the answer is no.
You got to be interested in
but
the Chinese podcasting
charts. But what I'm referencing is the fact that we have more ratings and reviews than any other House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones related podcast in the world. For a higher score than anyone in the world.
Okay.
4.8, baby.
4.8? Oh, God, get out there.
That's the highest.
You guys have to get out there, though. I need a 4.9 at least.
Yeah, please rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts or give us 5 stars on Spotify or whatever you do on YouTube. I don't actually know what you people do. We're new there. But anyway, I always say you got to give it...
Like and subscribe, YouTubers.
You got to give it 3 episodes. That's normally what I argue. When it comes to TV shows, you got to wait 3. And before you can truly judge, Barrett, I believe we can truly judge this thing to be good so far. It's at least good.
It's at least good. I agree with that.
And I think tonight's episode was great. It was phenomenal. So let's jump right into it. First of all, the crab feeder's name is Prince Drahar.
Is that right?
That's correct, sir. Prince Drahar. That's the crab feeder's name. They say it, I think, thrice in this episode.
I just thought they were talking about some prince over on the sea snake side.
No,
were they not?
That's him, dude. The crab feeder.
You're 100% positive.
Yeah, that's Prince Drahar, buddy.
Okay, all right. And has he named himself Prince? He's declared himself Prince.
Prince of something.
Why, if he's over there ruling the triarchy, why has he not declared himself king? Why is he not?
I'm assuming
King
that
Drahar,
they know the
Drahar.
actual lineage of this gentleman.
Okay.
His beginnings or something. I don't know.
Do you think that is he supposed to be kind of a normie and then he got grayscale and started wearing fish skin on his face and then he was just, and then
I can't tell what's wrong with this guy.
And now he's the crab feeder?
It could be.
Was the crab feeder?
It could be grayscale, but he's not in good shape. That's to be sure. He looks pretty awful.
Yeah.
But Daemon goes after this crab feeder fella. Remember, he met with Corlys last week to discuss doing this to try to gain favor with the realm on some level.
Which didn't totally make sense.
Not really.
Because I didn't get the sense that Daemon necessarily wanted to get back in the good graces of the realm or the king.
Corlys wants to gain more favor.
Yes, exactly. Corlys is very much like, hey, yo, I got to take care of this crab feeder. What do I have to say to you to get you to help me out with the Stepstones?
And as it turns out, Corlys has got himself a son.
Yeah.
Who's up there in the Stepstones with him, fighting this whole thing. So yeah, I think that all plays. It's more about Corlys, but I mean, so far we can't figure out if Daemon was aware he was being used there or if he also had some means to an end.
Yeah.
Not really sure. But Daemon's So the episode opens with this another, dude being tortured and a nice long look at our crab feeder guy. And when Daemon's dragon rolls in, this guy thinks he's going to get saved. And what actually ends up happening is he gets stepped on by the dragon and crushed.
Yes.
In our first probably actual, I've laughed several times, but I'm sick. So our probably first laugh out loud moment for just the general audience of mainstream viewers. That was hilarious, and I thought it kind of set the tone for the rest of the episode, just in an amazing way, because it wasn't stupid. It was actually funny. I laughed, and that's not easy to pull off with a death. But Daemon gets hit in this attack, right? So he has to pull out and end up retreating.
Yeah, look, we've come to kind of expect this, and it's always kind of interesting, and we just kind of have to. It's something that we have to wrangle probably now and forever as we continue to watch Game of Thrones shows and series. Is that we do treat these things, these dragons, like they are the ultimate weapon, like they are the nuclear bomb that you can just drop at any time.
Right.
And yet, pretty much every opponent, other factor that we've seen have to battle the dragons, they regularly figure something out to stymie them.
Yeah.
Basically. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit, that's just like an overall like Westeros thing that we just kind of have to like bottle up and shove deep down, I think, is that these dragons, like, yes, they're super powerful. Yes, they regularly save the day and are the ultimate weapon. But having one does not just guarantee victory every single time, all the time, no matter what.
I mean, people can hide in caves. You could be stupid enough to land your dragon by some cliffs that they already have dudes set up on to shoot arrows at you. You just never know what's going to happen.
One thing that I know, if we're ever doing like a modern day 2022 show about dragons, you never don't ever land the dragon, especially not like in any type of valley or pit.
Why are you landing the dragon?
Don't land the dragon. Just stay flying around up there.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Golly.
So, but he gets stymied. Like I said, he takes one to the arm.
And he's like,
Caraxes is, he's in there taking grenades. We
gotta get out of here.
He's in the trenches taking grenades.
It was tight when he held his wing up, like
very tight.
Blocked.
Very tight.
Boom.
We got a lot of body looks at Caraxes on this episode.
Ooh, it was a sexy
and he's
look
just,
into his whole physique.
He's he's got a lithe physique. He's got a lithe.
Oh yeah, that's a snaky dragon, that one. Oh God, he's beautiful. No, seriously, the shots of him to open this, like, again, I thought there was a lot of, as someone who's going to sit here and argue for the next hour that the episode was excellent. The tone was really set with this opening sequence, but we very quickly back out of the Stepstones and find out that we are experiencing a 2-year time jump.
Yes.
Because we are immediately introduced to Viserys' newborn son of Alicent Hightower,
who is now 2 years old.
Of her womb.
It's his second name day. Aha!
His second name day, my lord. And his name is Aegon. How many of these fucking guys are there? There's like
you gotta
6 Aegons.
You gotta name your son Aegon, man. He was the conqueror. Don't forget it.
How many? So the 2-year time jump thing. They give you a line that makes it very, very clear when they're like, the king's son is 2. And you're like, oh, sick. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But they really beat us over the head with it because they give you like 2 more lines to make sure. Just for all the morons out there.
It's been 2 years of hardship.
Seriously, they give you 2 more lines in this episode to make sure, just like in this 2-minute span, to make sure that you know, hey guys, 2 years have passed since the last thing you saw on screen. All right, are you clear? Good. Let's move forward. Kid's name is Aegon. And the triarchy, I guess, like, they're no longer under control. Because, I mean, the whole situation, we thought it was going to be solved by dragons. Like you said, turns out dragons aren't the ultimate trump card.
Did you go subtitles on this first watch through?
Yes.
Yeah, you cheated. You big cheater.
Yeah, no, I had to watch with 2 other people, so it was, I had no choice. What, you're impressed with my knowledge so far?
Yeah, you've got too much knowledge. Yeah, that's how I knew. Because
I also take notes because we do this podcast.
This is the type of shit that you only pick up if you're watching subtitles, is like all this minutia that they don't do it. Everybody's talking in British accents. They don't do a great job. Some of it's kind of murmured, tossed away.
Oh, I credit my notes to me, not the subtitles. Don't let this hater tell you I'm not smart. I am smart.
Okay, well, tell me about the triarchy. What's happened to the triarchy?
So Barrett, if you listened, the things in the subtitles are the things that they say.
I know,
so it's the words coming out of their mouths.
But it's
you should have got the same information as me.
It's all the tiny details that I miss on my first watch. You know.
So the triarchy situation out there in the Stepstones that we thought would be solved by dragons, they've just fled to some caves.
Okay.
These guys were like, oh yeah, you've got a dragon? That's sick. We're going to get in these caves then so you cannot kill us. And now that situation is bad. They're in Bloodstone's caves, and the subtitles definitely helped me out there.
They have not been disbanded. I mean, they're winning the war.
Yeah, they're still fighting. That's what I'm saying. The reason there is trouble that is being presented to Viserys here is like, hey, look, man, they're getting their asses kicked out there.
Yeah.
Corlys and your brother are getting owned.
They've basically done the Afghanistan Taliban thing where they've just retreated to the caves. And
it's insane. And you cannot wage that war.
You can't wage that war. You're trying to get in there, but it's all guerrilla style.
Yeah, it's their ground. They know the mountains. You don't know what the hell you're doing out there.
Right, yep.
Yeah, exactly. Same exact type of strategy. So Viserys doesn't want anything to do with this war in the Stepstones. He's just like, active. He's been trying to avoid it all 3 episodes we've seen.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to get involved.
And like he says, 2 dipshit malcontents started this thing without any type of permission from the crown.
Right. How's it going to look?
How's it going to look? Yeah.
And he doesn't see the angle of like, well, it would make you look just like insane. It would make you look gracious, really, and make you look like a hero.
Yeah.
But he doesn't see that angle. He hates it. These 2 dudes are a pain in his ass. Doesn't want to go help them out. Also, I'll say Viserys is in a bad mood this entire episode. The entire episode. He's getting shit-faced.
My man's is missing fingers, you know?
He's 2 digits down, man.
He's 2 digits down.
It's not going well.
This is a great time to just stop and say that, like, they did an absolutely amazing job with the makeup and hair team and costuming department here, because I didn't catch it, like, when the show opens, but, like, 15 minutes in, you're kind of, like, you peer at the screen a little bit, and you're like, is his hairline receding a little bit? And then you kind of, like, look down, and you're like, is he a little fatter than he was? They did a really nice job of like aging him 2 years.
2 stressful years, clearly.
2 stressful president-style years.
Yeah. Everybody knows when you're in that seat, bro, you age like 10 times faster.
Yeah, so he's got the hair is like an inch and a half back. He's a little paunchier. Obviously, like we mentioned, my man's is wearing gloves everywhere because, you know, nobody wants to see those burnt ends.
Yeah, I'd also say this. I cheated here, too, because I didn't notice the 2 fingers missing. My wife texted me and was like, did you see Viserys is down 2 fingers?
So I kept waiting for it because he was very clearly wearing gloves. And they were on a hunt, you know, yada, yada. But, like, I thought it was notable that he had on gloves a lot. And I was like, I was waiting to see what had happened to the pinky.
Okay.
And so then when he is eventually having that conversation with Alicent and he's like drinking his coffee because he's hungover as shit or whatever, you can like they finally like kind of zoom around and he like drinks his coffee with that left hand and there's just 2 fingers missing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's pissed off already, front of the episode, and he can't find Rhaenyra. She's missing. She's under a tree with her own personal bard she's just making him play the same song over and over.
These girls, man, of 10 and 7. Everybody knows 10 and 7. Just a really hard age to deal with, the 10 and 7.
It is. Yeah. I mean, a lot of brooding.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of moodiness.
It's like 10 and 7. 10 and 1, you can kind of like, they're still good. 10 and 2, but then you get to the 10 and 7.
And it's just a hell. It's hell. Yeah. So Alicent Hightower comes out there looking for Rhaenyra, and she is, not only has she given birth to the king's 2-year-old son, she's very pregnant again.
Indeed.
Very far along. Rhaenyra clearly hates Alicent, or is very upset with her, I should say. And Alicent is trying to sort of smooth things over. You can tell she kind of misses her friend or whatever. She wishes their relationship wasn't as fractured as it is. But there's
not been squashed.
No progress there.
No smoothing over on this one. Yeah,
at all. So, yeah. Rhaenyra is pretty isolated from everybody in this episode, you know. So, I should note, she ends up, like, they're at I don't really know, where are they here? They're gearing up for this hunt, right?
Yeah. So, they're out by
the camp. That's where they're at, the camp.
When Alicent comes out and talks to Rhaenyra? When she's got the
maybe
barb?
Not right then, but immediately afterward, we're at the camp because
because remember they take the ride out.
Yeah, that's one of the main settings for this episode.
I think she's just at the Godswood,
when she's reading under the tree. Yeah. But then immediately from there we go to the camp,
because they take the little buggy, they take the carriage out there where they're all riding together, and she's like, nobody's here for me.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, she's all upset. Still doesn't really want to talk to Viserys.
Did you question for you real quick?
Yeah,
the bard that's singing the song. Do you think they kind of like did a little pull from The Witcher there? Did you get a Witcher nod?
I was just happy it wasn't Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, same. But shouts to the Witcher Hive out there. We know you're out there. We love you. But you know,
I watched one season of that show.
Toss a coin to your Witcher.
Toss it, Barrett.
That guy, he had the tunes, and this guy was playing a little ditty, and it just reminded me of that.
He did have a bard. The bard in The Witcher was quite good.
Yeah.
Alicent stands up for Rhaenyra to some lady at this. They're at the camp or whatever, the hunting camp, and this one lady's really going at Rhaenyra, and Alicent stands up for her, and it's just like further evidence that she's attempting to make good on their relationship. This woman, I would note, is holding a pug. So we've just introduced designer breeder dogs.
First pug sighting, yeah.
Like, I mean, when we get to the hunt, there's all kinds of crazy dog breeds out there doing the hunting. It was a lot of dogs going on in this dog episode.
The hounds, I think we were well aware there were hounds,
right,
way back when.
In Game of Thrones, yeah.
But the pug was definitely interesting.
That was surprising.
To see. Yes.
It was a little weird, a little modern for my taste, this woman just holding a fucking pug.
I didn't, obviously, no chance to do the research yet. Very possible that pugs have been around for 600 years.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that it's fiction, so they can put whatever they want. But it was just funny that they put a pug. Yeah. Also, I would note it's the year of the dog on my comedy podcast, the Ross Bolin podcast, and we have 2 dogs in the studio with us today. My dogs, Bruce and Bella. But yeah, it was a little bit weird, just this normal pug being held by a woman.
Let them eat cake.
There were also peacocks. We got some peacocks.
Okay.
A lot of modern animals around.
I think just to pull a note from the inside the episode, they talk about how this camp, this hunt, everything is just another shining example of how kind of luxurious, frivolous, spendy this era all was for the Targaryens. It's
right.
It's post Jaehaerys. It's still boom times. And even Lord Corlys at the end of episode 2, who's basically fuck this king who's spending all of his time and money on balls, tourneys, basically
celebrations.
Yeah. This guy can't stop spending money on all this frivolous bullshit, and meanwhile my ports are getting beggared.
You're somebody who's been hunting, Barrett. So you know this. The wealthier you get, the less you're hunting. It's not really hunting if there's just a guy handing you a reloaded shotgun over and over. You're doing less and less work the more money you make and the more money you spend on a hunt. And I thought it was fucking hilarious that the hunt involves no hunting for the king at all. Zero hunting. Literally, they're holding the stag down when he comes up to kill it. This is the lamest possible version of any hunt that has ever occurred. But before we get to that, we finally meet my man, Jason Lannister.
Okay.
And nobody knew if he was real. You confused me last week and made me say Targaryen. I said Lannister in episode 1, and that is on you, sir.
Did you say Jason?
Absolutely.
You said Jason Lannister in episode 1.
1,000%.
Somebody pulled the tape. I thought for sure you said Targaryen because you said it was going to be played by Draco Malfoy.
Nobody can prove it one way or the other.
Here's a little Aryan-haired blue eye.
I was wrong about the Draco Malfoy thing for sure.
But yes,
here's Jason.
Here was Jason Lannister, which answers, a call that we had on our Patreon episode last week. Is will we see any Lannisters?
Yes.
Well, apparently we will, and we might have our timeline all sorts of messed up. Because I guess the Lannisters are at Casterly Rock, according to old Jason Lannister.
Yeah,
but I thought.
Wait, what about the timelines is messed up?
Well, because we said that the reigns of Castamere has not even happened yet, and I still don't think it has. But they took he talks about Lannispool, he talks about the honey wine that they're making there. But then when he's pitching his offer to Rhaenyra, he's like. He keeps talking about Casterly Rock as a great place to, settle down, basically.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember what assumptions we had made about the Lannisters or lack thereof, but they're clearly in Casterly Rock. Yes.
That they were not a prominent house yet 200 years ago.
And I still don't think they're a prominent house. Because the king is not willing to take this dude seriously at all.
Right.
Gives him zero respect. And I kind of read that as the Lannisters are still very fresh.
Okay.
They're very not established as some house to be respected yet.
Yeah.
As Viserys just kind of swats him aside. But we do learn Tyland is his dad, is Jaime Lannister's dad, Tyland. And it's funny that there's Tyland and Tywin and Tyrion. And then there's Jason and Jaime.
Who is Jaime Lannister's dad? Tywin is Jaime Lannister's dad.
Jason Lannister's dad is Tyland.
Oh, okay.
Jaime Lannister's dad is Tywin. Jaime Lannister's brother is Tyrion.
Okay.
But so there's all these T names, and then there's just Jason and Jaime. The most, average white American names in 2000 and 1989. is the year I'm going to go with. That those were both very popular.
Yeah. Well, the Lannister house is the frattiest, so.
Yeah. This dude's being played by, like, Thor Light is what I would call
I feel like I recognize this dude from something.
He's from stuff.
Yeah.
He's around.
Haven't looked him up yet, but I feel like I've seen him in stuff before.
And he looks like Thor to me. And like you said, Jason Lannister is trying to lock down Rhaenyra. He comes out, guns blazing, dropping all this. She's very early on in the conversation aware of what he's doing.
Yes.
And just like, oh, this fucking guy. I'm like 90% sure Rhaenyra is gay at this point. Like 90%, and that she's in love with Alicent Hightower. That's my read.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at, 90%.
I've said this before. I am fairly certain that in early press releases and stuff, the actor that is coming in to play older Rhaenyra eventually is non-binary, is what I believe was kind of announced and kind of put on press releases. That does help clue me in personally to the fact that I think that there is
something going with her sexuality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But I do think you're right. They are giving us that, or at the very least, that she's just uninterested in settling down and having children and being a wife and doing all of the whole bit that Alicent has clearly taken to quite well.
Yeah,
at her current stage.
Like she picks Criston Cole, and it's interesting because he's obviously a very good-looking dude.
Yep.
But as we see in this episode, what they have is way more of a friendship than anything else.
Yeah.
There's no romanticness to it really yet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Fraternal. A lot of kind of brother-sister thing going on.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so Viserys and Rhaenyra end up getting into it, fighting over her not wanting to marry because she's so turned off by this whole Jason Lannister thing. She's like, what the hell, man? They have a very public spat.
Yes.
Like, the first time we've really seen them yelling, like, they're not in the council meeting even. This is like out in the fucking...
This is where I really noticed that Viserys is like, looking
let himself go a little.
Let himself go a little bit, yeah.
I mean, great drunk face pulled off here by Paddy Considine. This is well played, sir. This was just a great performance this episode because you could see he was just not doing great.
Yeah,
just really not doing well. Otto Hightower has to break up this public spat, and he informs the king that they have sighted this White Hart stag. It ends up being where it's this apparently very, very well known white giant deer thing.
Yes.
And apparently it's extremely sought after.
And prior to dragons was a great sign of royalty. Right?
So a huge thing for the king's son's second name day, Barrett.
Big. For it to happen on the second name day of young Aegon. It must be a sign.
Second name day. So
everybody is pitching this, though. They're all, doing the elbow in the side, like, oh my goodness, a White Hart on your son's second name day.
And it's because everybody wants him to name that kid heir. Yeah. Everybody except Rhaenyra.
Once you turn two, you've left your infancy. According to one guy on the small council.
Ridiculous thing to say. Absolutely ridiculous thing to say. Yeah, it was really funny hearing all the angles. Obviously, Otto at one point literally pitches that the king marry Rhaenyra to
Aegon,
the 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And the king laughs in his face, as we all do. I hope everyone laughed. That was funny. Because it was so fucking stupid. Ridiculous. So, anyway, Rhaenyra is extremely upset. She rides off. She's not even hanging in the camp. She rides off, pissed off, very angry with her dad. No Jason Lannister. I will not marry Jason Lannister, she says. And Criston Cole has to chase her because that's her personal bodyguard now. Because remember, her old personal bodyguard is now the head of the Kingsguard. He's got more important shit to do.
Aye.
So Criston Cole, the dude she picked, is her personal Kingsguard guy. And he chases her down. It's like real dramatic, this horse chase.
Very dramatic horse chase.
She almost rides into a swampy pond thing, Barrett.
That would have been bad.
That was close, man. She would have been soaked in something that wasn't blood.
I'm glad you mentioned it like that because that happened and I was like, okay. So somewhere along the way where they were just like, you know what we need in this episode? Horse chase.
Good horse chase.
Like two riders looked at each other and said at the same time, horse chase. Because it was like very dramatized.
It was so dramatic.
They really just keyed it up here.
They laid it on thick.
She almost went into that swamp, Ross.
Dude, could have gotten soaked.
Very wet. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You know how
close she
long it
was to
takes
getting
for
wet.
leather to dry.
I know. What a pain that would have been. So after saving her life by keeping her from riding into the swamp, her and Kristen Cole, they sit down and they have a nice little heart-to-heart where she explains that she's upset with her dad for trying to sell her off. Basically, that she sees through his whole ruse, that, you know, she's of no value to him now, essentially, and that he's going to cash in that chip for what he can. And that's the way she sees it. Obviously, we find out that's not actually the way Viserys feels.
Right.
But in this weird conversation between Kristen Cole and Rhaenyra, he casually mentions, like, that he used to fuck a lot. Like, he's basically like, she's like, did you ever have a wife? And he's like, I would give you a simple no, but instead, I'll tell you that I had a very adventurous youth back wherever the fuck he was. Basically said that he was too lowborn to take
to be official, like what did he say? Like officially betrothed or something like that.
Right. But what this does end up leading to is Kristen Cole explaining that he owes everything to Princess Rhaenyra. Basically, that this is as loyal as we're gonna get right here between this dude, his loyalty to her.
Yeah, and she calls the position that she's currently in toothless. That she can't do anything. Nobody takes her seriously. She has no say. Yada yada. That's when he comes in with the my house. This is as far as we're ever gonna get. Kingsguard. Tippy top of the iceberg for us.
This is as far as we've ever gotten, and you put us here.
And you put us here,
Yeah.
so
It's not
that's
toothless.
not toothless. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Nice moment for them.
So highest station his family has ever known, Sir Kristen Cole. So this is a big deal. He obviously takes it very seriously, and thankfully so, because we end up seeing him have to do some stuff. But before that, we flash back to the hunt, and they've got like 30 dogs, all right? There's like 50 fucking dudes out here. They're tracking this thing. They've got bow and arrows, swords. It's an army for one deer, of which the king will do almost nothing. But Jason Lannister pops up here and he's like, I brought you this fucking dope spear from back where I come from, and it's for you to kill the stag with, sir. He's really just sucking up. And Viserys is like, oh, this fucking spear. He's so miserable. He's like, I fucking hate this guy. I can't believe I have to take this stupid present.
Yeah, I loved right here in this meeting when Jason is kind of like repitching the betrothal offer and says that his house will offer strength, and Viserys really flips it on him right quick with the, do you think that the Targaryens need strength?
We lack for strength.
And I loved the line like, well, would you not take more dragons if you could? And he says, do you have a dragon?
Dude, he goes at people in this episode.
Yeah, he got it. He got him. It
was great.
Yeah.
It really was.
Put old Jason Lanny in his place.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up, by the way. When Otto is pitching the king on marrying off his 2-year-old son to his daughter, Jason is also pitching the king on House Lannister's match for his daughter, which is when he gets roasted, like Barry just told us. And then there's that other guy,
Lord Lionel,
who we met in episode 1, maybe 2, but he's
2. But we officially meet him 2.
If he's on the council or not, or if
he's on small council.
Okay, so he's the guy who he seems to be giving really prudent advice.
Yeah, we don't know what he does,
or why,
how he got there.
I've speculated that he might be doing things at someone else's behest. I can't really get a feel for this guy yet.
But you're right. He does always seem to have like the most analytical, logical, sound
and
advice.
Not insane, right? Not like complete. Like, hey, what about your 2-year-old son?
Right.
Like not like idiotic, right? So, anyway, there's all those pitches going on. The king is absolutely obliterated, drunk, and just pounding wine. This guy is getting into the red.
How worried were you that Robert Baratheon was not the first king that had died on a hunt?
I won't lie to you. I was racking my brain for a Game of Thrones reference to like another king that got killed by a hunt. And it's ironic because this is only the first time I thought about Robert Baratheon in this episode, and it came up again when Rhaenyra got attacked by the fucking giant hog. Yeah. I was like, she's about to get Robert Baratheon. No. And then she survived. So.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, okay, they would have mentioned this. Absolutely would have come up as a line, in season 1 of Game of Thrones if there had been an old Targaryen king that went out the same way.
I would think I would have remembered. Anyway, I was still scared.
Yeah,
I was like, oh god.
He was really, he was 3 sheets to the wind there.
Yeah, I have a note. Viserys mentioned to Otto in reference to Jason Lannister That man's pride has pride, which was a fun line. Rhaenyra is still the king's heir, okay? So the 2-year-old has not been named heir yet. And like I said, Viserys drinking a lot, seems extremely distraught, not enjoying himself at this thing at all, where everybody else seems to be having a good time. He's just sick of the politicking, and he's down 2 fingers. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped. It is hot as dragon's breath outside this summer, which means it's even more important to keep your downstairs mix-up trimmed and cleaned. And you better believe that Manscaped, the global leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have the best tools for cleaning aisle 5 in your pants. Manscaped is phenomenal. They got everything you need. Start with the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer to get the most precise shave on your hedges. It's waterproof. It's got a light on it. I don't know why, but it is there in case you wanted to shave your balls in the dark like a complete and total psychopath. Also, this thing, it's amazing. It's the Weed Whacker. It's a nose and ear hair trimmer that I use. I brought mine today, Barrett, so you can see mine.
Are you going to weed whack your nose hair right here on camera?
That's the sound of hair being shredded out of my nose.
Yeah.
That I don't need that hair in there.
No.
I don't want it in there.
And
that's what the Weed Whacker's
sexier
for.
already.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Anyway, everything at Manscaped is phenomenal. They're awesome. The Crop Preserver, it's an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. The Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner for your balls. Everything your balls or dick could possibly want. Do you understand me? Everything your balls and dick could possibly want at manscaped.com. You just use code OCC and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code OCC. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your downstairs mix-up today with Manscaped. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code OCC at manscaped.com. As I mentioned earlier, this is, in fact, the lamest version of a hunt that you could possibly participate in. It's extremely rigged. It just feels like murder, unnecessary. Like, I'm not a big hunter hater, all right?
Yeah.
If you're out there and you're doing it for sport and you're cool about it, like, especially if you're a bow and arrow guy or whatever.
Look, I don't, at the risk of, upsetting our gun hunters, bow and arrow, and I mean for like the land beasts. Obviously, you're not going to like
bow and arrow dove.
Bow and arrow dove.
That'd be sick though.
That would be sick.
You should do that. It'd be tighter. That's what I'm saying. If you used a bow and arrow, everything about it would be cooler.
Yeah, the bow and arrow, I respected that a lot. If you're just like putting on a corn feeder, hiding in a blind with a rifle, and like
I just don't get it.
Letting a deer come up to 25 feet,
it's not for me. It's not for me.
Yeah. It just seems kind of like you're cheating. That's all.
Whatever keeps you from pointing the gun at people, but just it's not for me.
But yes, point being, this is even more rigged than that.
It's extremely lame.
It's not. There's very little dignity here. It really feels cheap and just not fun.
I should note the tension that builds up on the way to the hunt and the ominous music that's constantly playing in this episode really contributes to the fact that you think something terrible is going to happen. And also the conversations that take place preceding it, like Viserys and Rhaenyra end up getting to talk. And he does not want to force her to marry. He wants her to be, this is before they get to talk. He's expressing this to one of the people he talks to, that he wants her to be happy.
And he's talking to Otto, yeah.
Yeah, he's talking to Otto, says he wants her to be happy. Viserys freaks out at Otto. I came here to hunt, not be suffocated by all this fucking politicking. We get the 10 and 7 line, 7 and 10, excuse me. Find out she's 17 right here, 7 and 10. Bad age, Barrett. And there's mention of Sir Harwin Breakbones, that's Sir, what'd you say his name is? The big fat guy that gives prudent advice?
Lionel. Sir Lionel.
His son's name is Sir Harwin Breakbones.
Hell yeah.
Sick name, but he's not suggesting him.
It's like a WWE wrestler name.
It is.
Harwin Breakbones.
But the guy that dude suggests, in fact...
Oh my God, that's Harwin Breakbones music!
And then you hear bones break before the music. It's like,
Crunch.
I could see this. Yes.
Yeah.
You just made a whole brand up right
TM.
there. Yeah. The guy he suggests is Sir Rhaenyra, the son of the sea snake. The sea snake being Sir Corlys Valerian, all right?
Yes,
but again,
another opportunity to unite the two houses, basically.
Which is what he was trying to do the first suggestion through. So this is obviously a goal for him, which makes me think the man he's acting in.
You think this is a Lord Corlys pawn?
I do. I think this guy's bought and paid for by Lord Corlys.
I I'm not ready to say that. I feel like this is maybe just like the one guy that actually has good advice.
It does seem to be sound advice. I will give you that.
You know,
it doesn't. It's not like you hear it and you go, well, obviously this is for this reason.
Right. But you, I mean, obviously you could be right because this is the second time that he's pitched the same
guy
alliance.
Yeah, same alliance. So I don't know. Rhaenyra asked Kristen Cole if the realm will ever accept her as queen. He says they'll have no choice but to accept her. And then a feral hog attacks them. Out of fucking nowhere. Feral hog. I thought this was going to be the stag, the big white hart stag.
So, full disclosure.
Yeah.
I was like, it's going to be the white hart. And then the boar showed up, and I was like, it's the white hart.
You thought it was...
I thought the white hart was a boar.
That's because if you didn't catch the one line where they said stag early on with my cheating ass watching the subtitles, you had no fucking idea what they were talking about at this point.
So I was like, so honestly, in this moment where, the boar rushes Kristen Cole, he dives out of the way, it attacks Rhaenyra.
It really goes at her.
It's just, it's scratching her up. Thank God she was wearing that leather and that it didn't get wet.
Imagine if she had been soaked.
Lest it be in poor condition.
Had she been soaked, she would be dead.
Yes. So the boar's trying to tear the leather up. Kristen Cole, he gets it right in the side.
Yeah.
He's a sure spear there.
Yeah.
But you know how these 30 to 50 feral hogs can get.
Man. They're hard to take down.
They're hard to take down. They got 9 lives.
Yeah, it's like a villain in a Batman movie, man. You got to put like 2 in its head to make sure it's all the way dead, or it'll get back up.
So when Rhaenyra goes full, Edward Vincent Bates. What's the Bates guy's name? Full psycho.
Norman Bates.
Norman Bates. Thank you. When she goes full Norman Bates.
Vincent, his cousin. We're always inventing characters on this show.
Classic horror character Vincent Bates. Norman Bates, thank you. She goes full Norman Bates on the hog there. I was like, oh, what symbolism that she's killing the white hart that was supposed to be this big sign of like Aegon being, the gods have looked with great light upon Aegon's second name day, and now she's killing this white hart.
She's murdering the shit out of it.
Yeah, so then like 25 minutes later, I'm like, oh, so that's the white hart.
I love it. Oh, shit. Okay, so for everybody else that was watching that wasn't confused about this stag thing, it was probably a lot of people, to be honest with you, but... It was just more like, holy shit, she's got some serious rage.
She's got a lot of rage.
Yeah,
she's been angry. She is really, really...
She's letting it out there. Yeah. Getting a little vent session at the behest of this hog, which in fairness to me didn't read psycho. It read like, yeah, this is a good opportunity to let some of that out. You've been dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
But as a result, she is covered in blood like a psycho, which is pretty disturbing looking. Yeah. So she almost got Robert Baratheon, but then ends up brutalizing this feral hog. And we pop back over to Viserys, who's now by himself at a bonfire, which is a drunk guy thing to do. It's tight. He just had mad drunk bro vibes this episode. He's real upset.
A lot of bro vibes.
He says, episode. Many in my line have been dragon riders. Very few among us have been dreamers. And he tells Alicent this story of him trying to... I guess he saw in a dream when Rhaenyra was a child... He saw a male babe born to him wearing a conqueror's crown, and he wanted to be a dreamer himself. He wanted this dream to be true. He tried to have the dream again. He couldn't have the dream again.
Yeah, so when he says not many of us have been dreamers, he did not mean like not many of us have had lots of dreams and hopes and ambitions, and we've just been, pie in the sky like I'm gonna do big things.
Right. He meant night sleeping dreams.
With lots of intent behind them and meaning.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously,
like an actual dreamer, like a special magic,
like
dreamer.
Aegon.
Yes,
because we heard that he had a dream that he then believed was going to occur, and that this family holds that as an actual prophecy.
Yeah,
and he's saying he wishes he could be like that. I guess
he thought he was having a dream that was a prophecy, but
that he was going to have a son.
Yeah,
and it was wrong.
He was wrong.
Apparently.
Never had the dream again.
Yeah. And then he just ends up being like, I feel guilty about Rhaenyra's mom's death, basically, because he's basically carrying the responsibility of it like he forced that false dream onto her.
Right. And this was another one where I felt like either I needed subtitles or I wasn't totally clear on what he was trying to get across. But because did you get the sense that he was just like dealing with the weight now of having these two options? Or that he felt bad about like basically not believing that Rhaenyra could have been essentially the
so to me, this whole thing was he's talking, for about a minute before I think you realize what's actually happening, which is that he is weighing what everyone else is trying to push onto him, which is that his new 2-year-old boy needs to be named heir.
Yeah.
And he does not want to cast Rhaenyra aside, and he's dealing with the guilt of all of that decision weighing on him. So the whole episode, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with this guy. Why is he in such a bad mood?
Yeah.
He finally got the son he wanted. What is wrong? And it's because he's now being forced into this terrible position that he does not want to be in. And he has this son now, and he doesn't know what to do. So he's trying to talk it through with Alicent, who has obviously been sent there with the intention of swaying him in one direction that her father would like, right? But again, we cannot tell exactly how in her father's control she is or isn't.
Right.
If she's going to make decisions on her own or is not, it's still pretty confusing. But then we go to the actual hunt the next day. He's like, I don't know. But they just tie it up, man. It's tied up, and they literally walk over and they go, hey, all right, dude, you got the spear? Cool. Jason gave it to you. Now stab him right there. And he points. He's like, right here, Your Grace. Just give it a little poke. Go on then.
Yeah.
And he stabs it once. First stab doesn't kill it. By the way, this is not the white stag. That's one of the things they come out and they say, he's not white, Your Grace, but he's a big fella.
But he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Oh,
that's where I was like, oh, wait, okay. It started turning
the wheel
for me.
started turning.
Yeah.
I feel you. So first stab doesn't kill it. It's kind of sad. It's just like, oh, come on. But the second stab does, and everybody claps, but it's like, again, very ominous music is playing. It's not celebratory in any way in tone. And Viserys is like a shell of a man at this point. He's being completely broken by this decision that he's going to have to make. Then the white hart stag shows up for Rhaenyra. And as she's like, doing some brooding cliffside with a magnificent backdrop that probably cost about, I don't know, $150K. And she's got blood all in her white hair, and it's this very cool scenery,
Yeah. One thing that I'll drop in here to say, I know that there was some chatter online about whether the CGI through the first 2 episodes was good or bad, basically.
There always is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was in the camp that it was mostly good. I had a couple of hang-ups here in this episode. I thought they needed a lot more of it. They had both big dragon scenes, made me feel like the hog, for example, was not as good, right? I felt it more. It felt less real. And there were many scenes over the course of this episode where you can tell that they're using the new technology, which the name is slipping my mind right now.
VFX.
But there's some new fangled thing.
Oh, I was being serious.
Where basically what they're doing here is the green screen is like a incredibly high definition, million pixel whatever, and they are actually like putting the imagery, like the backdrop behind them on that screen, and then filming the screen. And that so that you don't even have to like put the effect in. It's right there. They're literally filming the screen. So a lot of that is
that's an interesting strategy.
I don't know whether that shot in particular was one of those, but I that's one of the things that I've been like noticing and felt like a lot of this was daylight with the hunt. You kind of read it more in daylight where you can just kind of tell that like it's not a green screen, but it sort of is. But like a lot of the super kind of amazing landscape, big horizon shots that you get are definitely that newfangled technology that they're using there. But
it's that newfangled technology.
To your point, that still might have cost $150K.
yeah, that shit's expensive. It's not cheap.
Not cheap.
VFX artists are, there's a lot of them out there in Hollywood. Yeah. So Rhaenyra basically tells Kristen Cole, no, let the white hart stag go.
Don't kill
she
the white
does
hart,
not want it killed. And then she shows back up at camp covered in blood, walks in very powerfully to everyone looking at her like, where the hell has this psychopath been and what happened to her? Why is she covered in blood, right?
Yeah, I liked that scene quite a bit. All the men are, looking up at her, and it was hard to read their faces, but it's certainly not.
It looked like some of it read like giving her respect, like, she was this little girl to them. Now she walks back into camp covered in blood, almost like it's a moment that
with
she
the
kind
hog
of becomes
trailing
a woman.
Her, with the dead hog trailing her.
Yeah, she clearly took this thing out.
Yeah.
It's a big ass hog. She's a little bitty girl, so it's an interesting read for sure. I think her dad is mostly looking at her like, what have I made? What is this?
Yeah.
Is she crazy? Like, what am I dealing with here? As he asks her, like, are you just going to be like Daemon, like a thorn in my side? Is that what's happening? So, but yes, I did read this scene as one of importance in terms of Rhaenyra's brand at court and with all these powerful men that she is surrounded by. Today's episode is also brought to you by MyBookie. Imagine if you could bet on House of the Dragon. Well, with MyBookie, you can bet on entertainment. During the Game of Thrones run, they had all kinds of crazy bets you could place for season 7 and 8, how the show would end, who would live and die. And if you think betting on sports is fun, wait till you bet on your favorite TV show. Just go to mybookie.ag, use code DRAGON, and you'll unlock a deposit bonus when you sign up and make your first deposit. Go to mybookie.ag, bet on all the entertainment, sports, and politics you can handle. Just use code DRAGON when you sign up. First-time deposit bonus. All the sports that you could possibly bet on. And a live casino as well. If you're into blackjack, they've got roulette. They've got the cool thing where you can actually watch the dealer or the roulette ball dropper. I don't know what they're called.
College football started this weekend.
College football is back.
Guess what starts later this week?
NFL Sunday?
That's correct.
Or Thursday. Is there a Thursday game?
Thursday.
Yeah, that's huge.
Oh, sure, hun.
Oh, yeah. Baseball's heating up. Playoffs are around the corner.
Playoffs around the
NBA
corner.
coming. All the sports.
It's fall, baby. It's almost fall.
MyBookie.ag, code DRAGON when you make that deposit to unlock that double deposit bonus. So Otto goes to meet with Alicent, and this guy's obviously trying to cement his daughter's son as the heir, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a pretty clear move.
And
but
he's using, right, like the guise of like, if Viserys doesn't do this, the realm will tear itself apart at the seams, right? Kind of the same thing that Rhaenys was saying in episode 2, like, nobody is going to just calmly let you be the queen.
Right.
Like they are going to go apeshit if that
men would rather put the realm to the torch
gets
than
close
see a
to
woman.
happening. And that's kind of what Otto is echoing here. Like this will be stability. It will be good for everybody.
It's tradition.
It's tradition. Like he just needs to do this and kind of quiet the waters a little bit, settle the waters.
Exactly. And Alicent does not want to see Rhaenyra displaced, but her father, he says, go guide him toward this decision, basically. He says, guide Viserys toward reason. He'll never find it on his own, which speaks a lot to what Otto thinks about, the king in general, I think, but also just that everything he's doing right now is about his own end game, right?
Yep.
Alicent goes to see Viserys. He is extremely hungover from the hunt and all of the drinking that he did. And Vaemon, like Damon, but with a V, has written the king a letter from the Stepstones. He was the really pissed off one out there. When we go out there and we see Corlys and then like his brother is yelling shit at him.
Maybe starting a mutiny, yeah.
That's Vaemon, the one who's trying to start the mutiny. And this is where the king finds out that Lord Corlys and Prince Daemon are getting smoked out there, that it's absolutely not going well, and somebody should probably do something, right? Which Alicent talks Viserys into doing. He is, as we said earlier in the pod, this whole episode he has not been interested in helping them. He wanted nothing to do with the Stepstones for 3 episodes now. But Alicent, I will say, seems to be very effective at operating in this universe. Sort of, she's like the ultimate game player almost. Like she's able to appease her father. We're not seeing her get smacked around by anybody. She seems to be living the good life, other than the fact that she has to get pregnant over and over, perhaps not wanting to. But I'm just saying, like, she's very good at playing the game. She does not piss off her dad. She seems to leave that room agreeing to do what he wants.
Yep.
But yeah, I just have been I've been impressed with Alicent's gamesmanship so far.
And when it comes to conversations between her and the king, there is a real level of, whether it's completely kind of falsified and fake on her side, that's the piece of it that we don't really have an answer to. But it really reads like they like they do listen to each other. Like he does value her advice.
Yeah.
And I mean, in this moment right here, right, she makes a pretty good point, right? Like, well, you're worried about what it'll look like. You don't want to help them because they kind of did this behind your back, and they were, you know, they didn't ask for your permission. They don't like you. You don't really like them. Forget all that. What is the best thing for the realm? You know, she frames it in a really digestible way.
Yeah. Would it be good for the realm if the crab feeder flourishes?
Was gone. Yeah. So flourishes. Yes. Yeah. So yes, she's good at it. But at the same time, their conversation does seem really natural. It does seem like they have this mutual respect. And
she's got a really good head on her shoulders, seemingly.
Right. Yeah.
So Rhaenyra ends up meeting with Viserys and calls him out for meaning to replace her with Alicent Hightower's son, and lays it out that she sees it as him trying to sell her off because he has no use for her now, and calls him out for not wedding Laena Velaryon if it was all about duty.
It's all about the best thing.
Right.
It was all about the, yep.
And he finally basically breaks down his entire facade here. He's like, look, I just want you to be happy. Pick your own match. Yeah. Do what I did with your mother. It was awesome. Go find your person or whatever. You know, you would hope your parents would say to you. Find someone that pleases you. And he says, quote, and I quote, King Viserys Targaryen I, I did waver at one time, but I swear to you now on your mother's memory, you will not be supplanted. So if you weren't taking him seriously at any point, certainly you're supposed to some degree after that line.
Yeah.
In terms of his intention to install Rhaenyra to the throne. Just a big, I mean, I thought that was enormous. I didn't know if they would give us anything that
concrete,
solid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they did. Before we get to the big ending here, I wanted to note, Barrett and I do a second episode every week, further discussing, analyzing, and digesting each episode of House of the Dragon on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, driven by hotline calls from our Mollusk Militia tier. If you want to be in the Mollusk Militia tier, you just join that tier and you get access to the hotline number so that you can call in. And every week, later in the week after our recap and reaction episode, which we do record immediately after the episode ends, we do ourselves a hotline call episode on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, get even further into it, answer a lot of the questions about things that we may or may not have gotten to touch on during this episode. And that's the one that we always both have rewatched with subtitles for.
Yes.
I just happened to watch with subtitles this week because I was with the two other people I was with. But so we tend to go into that one with more detail and just sort of further hash through everything that we've seen.
Yeah, we've gotten a chance to kind of sit on it for a couple of days and let it all marinate.
Absolutely. Instead of it being after the episode.
Look up what the actor playing Jason Lannister has been in. That type of thing.
Yes, sir. So if you'd like more OCC, if you want more of our House of the Dragon coverage, and you'd be kind enough to support us on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, we would really appreciate that. Get in there. If you want video with your episodes, go to the Mollusk Militia, and you'll also get that hotline number and join our Discord and yada, yada, yada. All right. So are you ready? At the end, we go to the Stepstones. We meet Corlys and Daemon's army, which again is getting rocked, and Vaemond is there trying to start a mutiny against Daemon. And we meet Lord Laenor Velaryon, which is the son of Corlys, which is the guy that was being pitched earlier in the episode as a good fit. And Daemon is out there in the background flaming the caves, I guess, trying to smoke them out. Who the hell knows what he's doing? But they're over here arguing about mutiny, and he's off doing that. He flies over, gets off his dragon. These guys are discussing using someone as human bait, and someone is suggesting Daemon, and then that conversation is broken off because Daemon, a representative of the crown comes up and says, "Hey, yo, I've got a message for you from the king." And Daemon reads that message, and then he beats the living shit out of that guy.
Yeah.
For some reason. He's very upset.
Maybe you've heard this turn of phrase, Ross, but hey, don't kill the messenger.
Right? I mean, geez, Barrett.
This is the moment in time, I think, where
somebody should have said that.
Where that idiom was born.
This is it.
Because this guy, old Daemon here, He kind of tries to kill the messenger.
He tries to kill the messenger. They pull him off and say, "Don't kill the messenger." And it's so over the top. They shouldn't have put that line in there, but they did. And then, so we don't really know exactly what his reaction means at first. And I think if you read into it, it's that he's upset, obviously, that his brother is having to come bail him out. He wanted this victory to be his.
100%.
And then he decides right there in that moment, you know what? I would rather die than be bailed out by my brother.
Than have to be saved by Viserys. Yep.
I'll go be the bait guy that I don't see. And this is the thing I don't know. Was this intentional? Because we don't see any further conversation. Next thing you see, he's in a boat rowing off, which leads to everything else we see in this episode. Do you think he and those dudes further spoke and they said, look, we want you to go out there and draw out the crab feeders so that we can end this, and he agreed to it? Or do you think he just stormed off, got in the boat, and it happened to work out for their plan, which was that they wanted to send somebody out there to draw the crab feeder out so they could end this?
I kind of think that there wasn't a conversation.
That he just
kind of think that he was just like, I'm going to go kill the crab feeder myself.
Because that would be literal suicide. Like, look, the amount of dudes he's got in those caves still, which we find out here pretty shortly, that would definitely end in death.
Yeah,
100%.
It's a good question. It's really hard to tell. There are a couple of other questions that I had surrounding this whole battle scene here.
This is the kind of thing we get into on Patreon.
And I'll at least ask the question here, and maybe you have an answer already. But it sure all works out nicely, right? That the cavalry is there, and that they're and that
that's what makes me think they had the conversation.
Caraxes and the other dragon, or maybe it's only one dragon. Not sure. That's one of my questions.
More than one dragon.
Yeah. Okay. That they do show up, and so it's pretty clear. Or what the part that is clear is that the white flag surrender is not real. That he is going to,
right. I mean, this entire
pull his boot knife out.
It was like watching William Wallace ride up to that
start
first
slashing
English
throats.
installment where he ends up burning the whole thing to the ground. Like, you knew he's riding up under surrender, like William Wallace style, hands behind his head, except it's with a white flag. He's just standing there. But you knew the whole time he's gonna attack here. He's gonna do something. Yeah. And ends up going full ape shit, killing a whole bunch of people.
Maybe you're right. Maybe he turns around. And they're like, okay, well, here's
either that or he got extremely lucky.
Here's one idea we have, and he's like, yeah, let's fucking do it.
It had to have been that. Other than that, or he got extremely lucky.
Yeah, that everybody was like, oh, wait, what's he doing?
This works out perfectly for our plan. Let's go. It seems like that's not likely. So goes out under a white flag, ends up attacking.
If somebody else is riding Caraxes in that scene, which I think is happening,
no.
The Rhaenyra guy is riding another dragon.
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to that then.
Yeah.
Okay, so still no answer then. Don't know.
Yeah, I think it's that they discussed it.
Okay.
I'm like 99% at this point. And he's out there, he's kicking ass, but then they've got archers, and he gets hit a few times, and it's like, oh shit, and he gets surrounded, and you're like, oh, well, I guess his dragon's going to come save him. Right. You're like, oh, surely Caraxes will swoop in or whatever. Like, that's what we all assume is going to happen. It ends up being a kind of a confusing moment when you realize all of a sudden, well, first of all, there is a dragon, but it's being ridden by someone who is not a Targaryen. Even a Targaryen. It's
correct.
This Lord Laenor.
Yeah.
Corlys's kid.
And I think, you see Crab Feeder kind of like looking up at the ridges and the
thinking he's going to deal with Caraxes,
thinking that they're like kind of waiting for the dragon. And I think
he's looking for the dragon before he sends his men out.
Yes, yeah. And what I think that we're kind of supposed to read there is that the general knowledge at this point that like there kind of has to be somebody on the dragon. So he's like, okay, Daemon's right there. He can't be on Caraxes.
That is sort of the vibe I get. Yeah.
Right.
You can't remote control your dragon.
Yeah. So that's why he feels comfortable
coming out with all of his men.
Releasing everybody essentially. Yeah. Like, we got him.
Right.
No, he can't get on the dragon. Dragon's not around. Let's go.
This is legit. Yeah. Let's go grab the dude. Yeah. So obviously they don't know, just like we don't know, that it turns out Laenor is a fucking dragon rider.
Yep.
And the part that obviously it's weird because it's like, okay, did y'all know this before when y'all were having that stupid conversation about sending somebody out as bait and you just forgot? Like, they withheld this information from us. But now that I'm thinking it through, it has to be that the entire time they were like, let's use somebody as bait. Or I don't know, why weren't they already using the dual dragon attack?
Yeah.
from day one or whatever.
Well, so
maybe it just was hidden from us here.
Earlier in the episode, when they're talking about how poorly things are going, when they talk about the cave style combat, there's a line in there where they're like, the dragons have essentially been rendered
useless,
ineffective, useless, whatever word you want to throw out there.
And they said plural there. Yeah, but I read that still as like them talking about dragons generally. I wasn't like, oh, they have more than one dragon now.
But it does. These are the types of questions that I was talking about. Is that Laenor's dragon? Is it his dragon, or is it a Targaryen dragon that he is able to ride?
I do believe it is an Avatar situation where you do not just get to hop on any old dragon. It has to be your dragon.
Okay, so you think that House Valerion has dragons.
At least one. And it's been hidden from us. Like, I don't think everybody here was suddenly, like, I don't think Laenor was like, all right, this is the perfect time for me to go grab my hidden dragon in the woods that I didn't tell anybody about and ride in and be the hero.
Yeah.
So I think everybody has to have been aware. It's just something that was purposely withheld from us as the audience this entire 3 episodes.
Okay.
That there are other people riding dragons. Like, they're very much keeping us in the dark on this whole dragon rider scenario.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting angle because Rhaenyra is being, pitched as a queen to this dude or whatever, as a relationship with Laenor, and they're both dragon riders. Mm-hmm. So who knows if that'll give him some kind of in with her.
Right.
I think my guess, just off of no other knowledge, is that this is the match we end up seeing. Rhaenyra and Laenor are the ones that get married, because nothing else so far has made any sense at all.
Yeah.
And I think she's in love with Alicent, so it's got to be something that strategically works for her.
Sure.
And another dragon rider would be seen as like the closest thing to an equal, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
So
that all tracks for me.
Daemon ends up going in to do one-on-one battle with the crab feeder. I wish we'd gotten to watch it, but then he walks out with him, and I'm glad we didn't have to watch it, because whatever he did to that man wasn't pleasant.
Got bloody in there.
He's half of him.
Yeah, just the torso.
Just the top half, Barrett.
Intestines hanging out.
You only needed the top half to ID a
Guts
body.
display.
It turns out.
Yeah.
Pretty gnarly, though. I will say, Matt Smith was absolutely amazing. Daemon Targaryen's facial expressions throughout this entire fighting, he's such a badass.
I will, and I'll say right here, eat the crow, because I thought for sure Crab Feeder, after we opened and closed episode 2 with Crab Feeder,
was
going to be a little bit longer of an arc. I didn't think that he was going to be like in episode 9, but I did think that we'd spend a few episodes with him. Other people were telling me, Crab Feeder's getting got. This episode, we're done with him. They were right. Now, a piece of the puzzle that I wasn't able to factor in is that we continue to do these mini time jumps.
Time jumps, yeah.
Although
they'll get you.
They're not so mini,
Yeah.
And do we have any more data that we need to cover before we just get to some broader thoughts to close it out? What else?
I will say,
Daemon walks out. You're right.
It's Game of Thrones.
He looked awesome.
So they
very bloody.
They have a habit of building up very ominous, badass characters and then not allowing them to speak even one line before they're murdered. If you were in the camp that thought the Crab Feeder was going to be a longer storyline, I was with you too. I thought this was going to be somebody that we had to deal with the whole season, and he's in half. So that was very Game of Thrones. Yeah. It was cool. The whole moment was awesome. I mean, to have the episode build up and be like a really kind of classic people talking in rooms, we're dealing with the inner workings of this situation and people's moods and their personal reasons for why they feel how they feel, and then to end with like a 20-minute badass fight, gore, guts, and awesomeness I loved it. I loved it.
That seems to be the early formula for this show.
It's give you everything you want.
Is the like lots of talking in rooms with kind of 15 to 20 minute or 10 to 15 minute, I should
battle
probably say,
sequence type of thing,
like set piece.
We had the big tournament, right?
Which definitely makes sense for the Miguel Sapochnik part of the show, right? Is
right.
Like that's what he was bringing to the table was kind of master of the set pieces. So it's not surprising that we're kind of getting at least one per episode through 3.
Yeah, and this one was the coolest so far. I mean, just in terms of scope and what they had to pull off. Now, the only note I didn't notice any issues with like the VFX or CGI or whatever. The only time it stood out to me at all was when they still haven't figured out quite how to show you someone riding a dragon. right? This was always an issue with Dany in Game of Thrones. It's like whenever they would show her individually on the back of the dragon in the sky, you would be like, okay, well, that looks like bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, it just kind of looks off, and it's the same thing when you see Matt Smith as Daemon Targaryen atop Caraxes here.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a really, really tough one.
Difficult thing to pull off. Same thing with Sir Laenor or whatever his name is as well.
Yeah.
Where that's the only time in the episode where it kind of took me out of it for a split second, and I almost wish we didn't get those close-up shots anymore because they still do not know how to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that like you said, I thought the episode was really strong in a lot of ways because it had a good blend, because it did. I thought the work on the Viserys character as he's just getting drunker and drunker, and then kind of reluctantly killing the stag, and the whole thing. And then we had like the three kind of.
He didn't want to be there at all.
We had like the three kind of parallels. It was almost like a rock paper scissors thing, right? Where there's there's Viserys stabbing the stag, killing the stag in this kind of like really kind of sad way with it all bound up and almost like representing his own tension, right? His own burden. And then kind of you parallel that with Rhaenyra kind of chaotically killing the boar and letting out her own feelings in that same moment, in this kind of nobody holding that boar down, but her just kind of going crazy on it, kind of expressing her emotions. And then when she's all bloody and walking out, that's kind of a parallel to the Daemon walking out of the cave all bloodied with she has the dead boar behind her. He's dragging the dead crab feeder behind her. So it's like the three big Targaryen characters here all kind of like have this moment that reflects their arc in this episode, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought that was all really, really well done. My thing through 3 episodes right now that I'm not unhappy with it. It's just I still do feel a little bit of whiplash from these time jumps.
You're not alone in that.
Because it's just so, and one of the things that I'm glad I'm getting here because I wanted to just drop this in here too. Some of the criticisms of the show so far, I feel like have been unfair because these episodes are being treated as if they are like the 77th, 78th, and 79th episodes of Game of Thrones.
Sure.
But they're not. They are 1, 2, and 3 of a completely new series, written by different people, directed by different people. Everything yes, it's the same world. The visual language is the same. The intro thing and the intro title is the same. There definitely are some through lines, but it's a new show. It's got to get on its feet as well. Like it has to go through all the same storytelling pieces that any show has to go through.
What complaints are you referring to?
Well, I'm just any of them. I'm just saying that like I feel like there are complaints out there that are essentially expecting this show to be humming at the level that Game of Thrones eventually got to, right?
The level that it eventually got to that people hated?
Well, no, but it's, it's zenith, right? Like seasons 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
My point being, you have to give this show a little bit of time to really start humming.
I'm just in the camp that has seen it as humming since episode 1. So I have absolutely, if I had to pick a complaint, it would be stop giving me close-up shots of people's on the back of dragons while they're riding them in the sky. I really don't have anything else.
Okay. Well, so
I'm cool with the time jumps. Those don't faze me at all.
I just wanted to throw that out there that to just say that there are some criticisms that are like, yo, it's been 3 episodes, chill.
Yeah.
What I was going to say about the time jumps is like, it's just, it is a different thing to be watching. It's a different type of story. And like last week I was saying that I really appreciated the narrow focus of the show so far, or at least that it could be a good thing moving forward since the super scattershot wide scope of Game of Thrones kind of eventually came back to haunt it. Now through 3 episodes, like I'm almost wishing that there was like a couple other things to bounce around to. But they can't because they keep doing these crazy or not crazy, but like they're still really hurdling through time here.
All right, I'm just going to say it. man, y'all complaining about the time are crazy. We already knew there was going to be a fucking another set of actresses coming in, but I thought we were going to get there this episode. We're not even there next week. So at the pace versus the pace I expected, we're actually going slower than I thought we would.
Well, okay, but what I expected, I'm with you. I expected to get to the older actresses sooner. But in that same expectation, what I thought is that we would spend more time in point A and then more time at point B, basically. That there would be two main timelines. But instead we're doing hops to get to that point B. So we're stopping through at all these little.
So you thought there would be one big jump?
I thought there would be one big jump. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing so far is that that it does. The show has a lot of work to do to fill in those gaps. This episode, you could see that they were trying to shade in some of the 2 years that they didn't show anything of. Right. And so that's the only thing is I'm curious to see how they continue to do that. If we do continue to jump forward at months, years at a time. So it's just a different.
The pace is different.
The pace is different, and the way the story is told is a little bit different because of that.
Yeah, I'll summarize your point. This is a completely different show than Game of Thrones. They're allowed to have their own pace.
Yep.
And we're gonna have to deal with it. The only thing here's the way I justify it in my head. If there's a time jump, it means nothing that mattered in that period of time was important enough to show us, and anything that we do need to know, they're gonna tell us.
Yep.
So it doesn't bother me, man, especially with this show where we're working with a totally new story, like you said, and I have no expectations really.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. People are dragging unfair expectations into this. It's you really shouldn't. It is its own project. It exists on its own. Let's just let it be its thing, and then we can judge it as it is, as its own project. We're not judging it mixed with Game of Thrones. This is a totally different thing to me. Just happens to be connected and also the same and branded the same. But yeah, I mean, the pace hasn't bugged me. It's something that I've obviously been very interested to see each time it's been presented to me. I'm like, okay, wow, we're doing 2 years. That's better make it not seem weird to me. Right? There's something to be done after the fact. They can't just tell me it's 2 years and then not do anything to fill in those gaps. So if they didn't include the small conversations that kind of give you a feel for what they've been dealing with for 2 years, which we get a lot of, essentially my read is Viserys is so beaten down and tired here because the only fucking thing that's happened for 2 years is what we see happen in this episode.
Right.
Hey, marry this person. Hey, marry that person. Marry him to this person. Marry him to this person. Marry him to this person. And it's played so far. Now, is it something that the more times they do it, the more afraid I become that maybe it won't work in the end? Yeah, for sure. Because the one I'm looking forward to and the one I'm looking forward to judging is the one where we switch actresses, where our actual actors are going to be changing because they're aging them up to a whole nother phase of life. Yeah. That is going to be a very, very interesting week. And as I noted, it's not next week. It's not even going to be next week. So you're talking about at a minimum episode 5 at the earliest episode 5 when we switch actors to get our older ones?
At this point, I'm not expecting it until halfway through. I'm not expecting it until 6 probably.
And
would be my guess.
And I'll say this, and then I'm saving everything else I have for Patreon. But one of the notes I'm seeing from people generally on Twitter is that the way they're pacing the show, they will definitely have enough to play with for season 2, right? So, you got to remember, they got renewed between episodes 2 and 3. And that is one of the things to keep an eye on is, how much story do they want to bite off? Obviously, you and I don't know what the fucking story is, so it doesn't actually matter all that much. But that is a thing that apparently all the book readers and Redditors, the people who have that knowledge of where this ends, they're saying that so far the pacing seems, it's they've definitely given themselves enough room.
Yeah.
And that makes me very happy to hear because it does feel like we've gone through so much already in 3 episodes that I get a little worried about the amount of information that's going to be served to us in one season.
Yeah.
So,
and that's kind of where I'll end my point too is the it's all been really good. The performances great, obviously. Show really cool, but when you do the when you do the larger jumps and you have to paint with slightly broader strokes, you do lose like an opportunity to be like, and oh yeah, Laenor, whatever his name is, he's a dragon rider, and the Valyrians have dragons too. It's like the smaller little details that really like have typically painted this story. I just don't want them to get kind of like overlooked or missed because we're doing in the name of the time jump. So it'll just be interesting to see as we make our way to the middle of the season if they do ever if they're going to slow down at any point, if there will be smaller time jumps, or if they will continue to kind of like pop in and out every 2 years, 6 months, 1 year, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, until it hits a point where I see something negative as a result.
I think for the actor change, it has to be like at least a 5-year jump, right?
I would be shocked if it was less. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't do 2 and change the actors, I don't think.
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if we get another jump between 3 and 4. And we obviously know we're going to get another one at some point. We just don't know if it's going to be next week.
Yeah.
Or how big next week's will be, rather. So, yeah, no, I was shocked, man, to still see the same actresses, and I was excited because they are both very good.
Yeah.
Albeit one of them is absolutely awful at TikTok. Speaking of which, follow us on TikTok at Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. We're also on Instagram at Oysters, Clams, Cockles, and on Twitter at Clams and Cockles. You can follow Barrett at Barrett Dudley on Twitter and Instagram, and follow me at WR Bolin on Twitter and Instagram. Check out my show, The Ross Bolin Podcast, wherever you are listening to OCC. Full episodes of our show, by the way, are available on YouTube all season long. You just go to YouTube and you Google Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, and you can watch Barrett and I on the screen there. It's us. Look at us. Go to bolinmedia.com/shop to get yourself some OCC merch. We'll be back later this week on patreon.com/Oysters, Clams, Cockles for further discussion and analysis of Second of His Name. That was the name of the episode. Second of His Name.
Did it say episode 3 for you on HBO Max?
Yep. But then if you go back, like they usually update it right after the first hour or whatever.
Got it.
And then you'll see what the title is. Second of His Name.
Second of His Name.
Yes, sir. Until next time, Clam Fam. One more time for good measure. Crab people.
Crab people. I wanted to do it the whole episode.
Walk like crabs, talk like people.